What's up guys, Robeytech here, and we've got a surprise from Origin, the return of a legacy laptop, and the use of a brand new platform using nothing but AMD. Find out what I'm talking about right here on Robeytech. What's up guys, Robeytech here, and I am super excited to be here today to talk about the newest laptop in kind of a complete surprise, but the return of the 16-inch laptop, and it's kicking it off with the AMD Advantage edition of the EVO16-S, which I'm sitting right here with. Now, I only get a day with this laptop, and I've been spending time basically typing on it, playing some games on it. We're gonna check some of that out a little bit, but we're gonna talk a little bit about the EVO16-S and a little bit about what makes this so special, both from the side that it's like the return to like of a legacy size, but also what AMD Advantage is, what you're basically getting with this, what the configuration options are, and then we'll talk a little bit about like showing just some gameplay and stuff like that. Now, I will say the reason we're not benchmarking it, and this is like really a preview, is because drivers aren't finished. There's some tweaks that still need to get done, and so when we do our full review later on, probably this month, maybe even early next month, we'll be able to talk more in depth about some of those things and show a lot more of that off. So this is the EVO16-S config that I have right here. It's a 16.1-inch FHD 144Hz screen. It's got an AMD Ryzen 7 6800H. It's got the AMD Radeon 6650M XT, and then we've got 32 gigs of 4800 megahertz at DDR5. We've got a 2 terabyte Samsung Pro NVMe SSD, and then of course we're using Windows 11. Now, one thing I do want to talk about here is why using AMD is such a big deal, right? And we'll get into AMD Advantage, like I said, a little bit later, but what is it that's so specific about this that makes things interesting? And it's more akin, if you just watched our video on gaming on Apple, it's very akin to what is happening with Apple because AMD owns all of the interconnects in this. So between AMD GPU and AMD CPU, there's a lot of magic that they do with this thing called the AMD Advantage that allows things like interconnects and stuff that's more akin to what you get with the SoC architecture on like the M1 and M2, which you can do here. And I'll talk a little bit about what some of those features are a little bit later. That's the stuff that they're really kind of pushing. And even if you looked at our coverage of PAX, which you can actually see our review of right here, you can see that AMD's really pushing this new partnership with the laptop integrators like Origin. A couple of things. The form factor comparatively to what we have seen with the new 15, the 17, and the 14 is very, very different. So there's quite a bit just physically different from the other laptop. Now here I have the 15, and you can even just look at them from side to side here, and I'm gonna zoom out a little bit on the camera so you guys can see that. There is a difference in terms of how these laptops look, even just looking next to them, right? You can see there's a big difference just with the form factor in general. Even the rear is a little bit longer, so the end of this one ends right at the edge versus on the AMD EVO16-S version, you're getting a little bit bigger. Now this is for speakers, etc. Now one thing I do really appreciate about both of these is the fact that all of the connections, the critical connections, are actually here in the back. That's the same thing with the 15, 17, and apparently 14 as well. We actually haven't seen the 14 in a while. Other difference is that this keyboard is more akin to the older keyboard. So it's funny, like I've got Origin laptops everywhere. This is the older Evo 15, and you can actually see that in this case, the keyboard is more like this one, which is like the lighting and everything else, than it is like the newer one. This is kind of their newer, more physical keyboard on the 15, and this one actually is kind of a little bit more mushy. Now, one thing that I do want to mention that I've noticed a big difference about is the RGB, right? We all care about how good the RGB is. The lighting on this one though is ridiculous, just how bright it gets. So I'm actually using the ripple effect on this one right now, and you can see that the lighting is very bright. And the cool thing about it is that it also, when I push it, you can see it actually moves out to the RGB bar that's on the outside, which is a very, very cool addition. On the 15, all you get is kind of this lighter bar here, and then that's kind of about it. Let's talk a little bit about what the memory and storage is. Again, we've got, in this one, we've got 32 gigs, but you can do up to 64 gigs of DDR5. The other thing too that we also have on this, when you think about the EVO16-S, is all of the same things in terms of how the actual laptop looks. So here, this one actually has their laser etched skin stuff on it, so they're using their UV printing technology. One of the things I talked about in my 15S review is that There was some things that they had to fix with this that have been fixed in the newer versions, because now you can actually get some texture with this. It's a whole lot brighter. It's a lot cleaner and nicer. And then what they actually had to do some revisions to their overall printing technology, so it's a lot more durable. Another little bit of brief information. I know we talked about the specs, but this laptop actually launched today on 9/8. So if you're watching this later, it came out on 9/8. You can head on over right now to originpc.com and check it out. Totally worth doing so. And then we're going to cover, obviously, in the video today, some of the other reasons that you might enjoy a laptop like this. Let's go ahead and flip this over. Let's take a look at the installation and what it looks like inside if you wanted to upgrade it. And then from there, we'll talk a little bit about AMD Advantage, and then we'll do a little gaming on it and then kind of close this thing out. I mean, I always like to do this is we want to see, again, showing in there what we were told that we're going to get, and then we're going to open it up and actually take a look and see like what upgradability is like.
A few moments later.
Okay, so on second thought, we actually ended up trying to take it off, and then it got really difficult, and so I didn't want to do this with the only sample that we have. And again, this does have to go out for some other things. So again, you can actually see in there, we'll zoom in here as much as we can, but you can actually see, you can see the Corsair Vengeance RAM, and then here it actually shows the other SSD as well. So you can see the components, but when we do the full review, of course, we'll make sure that we get this open and you'll be able to see the entire safe. But again, it does make it visible. Okay, so let's just briefly, I wanted to talk a little bit about, you know, if you're looking at this, well, Robey, if I want to choose a laptop, and you know, I have choices between obviously Intel and Nvidia, and then also AMD Advantage. Like, why would I choose AMD Advantage over, say, for instance, like an Nvidia, like a Team Blue, Team Green laptop? So the big thing is it's really simple, right? Like, you have the CPU, the APU, and chipset, and everything in between is all done by AMD. So that means that you've got access to the Infinity Fabric. In the case of Smart Access Memory, when you have things basically being transferred to your hard drive, because they don't have the Infinity Fabric and you don't own the whole thing in the case of Team Green or Team Blue, what it'll do is it'll have to park things onto the CPU, and then it'll transfer it to the NVMe. But in the case of Smart Access Memory, they don't need to park anything on the CPU because of the Infinity Fabric, and they can directly transfer things directly between things to, say, for instance, the NVMe drive. So there are some things you can do, like using Firestrike and other things to actually show this off, but given that drivers aren't in a final state, showing those things live here during the preview doesn't make a ton of sense. So it will be something we'll save for the review. I wanted to give you some information on what's good for the AMD Advantage program and why you might want to choose a laptop that uses that. Last thing, let's go ahead and open this up and do a little gaming on it, just to kind of take a look, see what the screen and hear the sound, and then go from there. So let's kick that off. Wanted to do and hear the speakers. That was the big thing for me, is how good the speakers are and just getting a little bit of a vibe here. This is the game Steel Rising, just recently released. It's like a RPG, Dark Souls type game. I mean, it's buttery smooth. I mean, the sound is good. I mean, we're at full max volume, so the sound is actually pretty good. The thing that I'm actually enjoying the most about using this is just how big the screen is compared to the 15. Like, much nicer size. Good amount of sound. Like, again, you can still hear the fans obviously over the sound versus throwing something like a headphones, but in terms of controlling things, very, very good in terms of the buttons feel fine, it's easy to use. There's a lot of space on the keyboard just in terms of gaming, which is also really nice and moving around. I talked a little bit about what the AMD Advantage does in the case of where it does the eco mode and stuff like that. This still does actually have the overclock potential. With the Origin EVO16-S, you do get the X Station, which has things like your system information, your dashboard, all that sort of stuff. So you can see things like what's your CPU frequency, your usage. You can check your GPU frequency, GPU usage. But here on the system information side, you can actually see things like, similar to the 15S, but without the physical button, you actually do have the ability to turbo, go to eco mode, and then you have the beast mode like you do before. Instead of being a simple button, you actually have them as function keys actually on the laptop. So if I was going to hit function key and then you go to eco mode like this, you'll actually see here in the screen that it's actually changing. Same thing if I go to function and I go to turbo mode, then it goes to turbo. And then you can also do stuff like hit the fan button, and then that does, like here on the dashboard, where we're now in full fan speed mode. So the last thing I want to talk about is, why would I choose Origin? Because that's another big question that always comes up. It's like, you know, I can go and I can get like a Lenovo, or there are other laptops that actually are less expensive that also fall within the AMD Advantage program. So why would I choose Origin over, say, for instance, one of those? A couple of those things that I wanted to highlight there. So here we are looking at the configure your system, and this is some of the things that I was kind of alluding to earlier on, is that first and foremost, you've got that HD UV printing, so you can customize it, which is actually really cool. And then you've got your custom print if you want to, so you can choose one of these predefined patterns, or you can actually choose something like laser etching, or you can do a full UV print like what I have on the Robeytech ones that I was showing a little bit earlier. But this is the more important thing, which is the memory. I'm gonna choose, and I'm gonna get Corsair Vengeance, and whether that's the 16, 32, or 64 gigabyte kit, that's when I turn this over and I look at this, and when you saw me open it up, you saw that's specifically what I had inside of it. Your operating system drives, you can see here that I can choose between an MP510, I can do just an OPC approved by Samsung, I can choose like Corsair 2 terabyte MP600s, or I can do 970 EVOs, and specifically what you choose is what is put inside of the actual device. And then you also get that warranty, that 24/7 lifetime support, which means you can call anytime, day or night, if you have an issue. There's somebody on call, and that they have all of the information that also ships with it that shows you how your PC did when you get it. And then again, if there's any issues later down the line, you can go and basically get that fixed. That's kind of the big difference in terms of when you do that versus just getting like the 1-year warranty from like Best Buy. And the only two is, again, you're guaranteed specific parts when you actually purchase the Origin EVO16-S. Anyway, guys, that is the full preview of the EVO16-S. I hope you enjoy this. Again, we went through what the hardware, configuring it, what the Origin difference is. We talked about the form factor differences between the newer 15, 14, and 17. We actually showed you some gaming on it. We did talk about also configuring it, what like the hardware actually looks like. So I'm hoping we covered everything you'd want to see in a preview, as well as why you might want to purchase something like this. Pretty cool to see this as a new offering, a very, very different looking laptop than some of the other ones that we've seen here on the show, and specifically a very different offering that pairs very well with stuff like the Corsair Voyager, another AMD Advantage laptop, and something we will also be covering later on the show. But I'd love to know your thoughts. I'd love to know if this is the way that you'd like to see a preview, if there are other things that you would like to do. Again, this is a preview because we weren't able to fully test this because there's just some things here like the game, like a preview of a game, etc., that aren't fully baked and will be by the time we actually do the full review. But sound off in the comments below if there are things we can do better to make this more informative and more awesome for you. Because again, I know we kind of go all over the place, but the big thing is there's just a lot to cover when you're looking at a new piece of hardware. Now, while you're down there and you're in the comments, make sure you slap that subscribe button, whip that like button, and ring that notification bell so you get a notification each and every time we post a new video like this right here on Robeytech. Also, I don't know if you know this, but we also have a live channel. Actually, it's the largest of the two, Robeytech Live. You should head on over there. We stream every Monday, Tuesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, where we do things like, well, we'll game on this, but a lot of it's just live PC builds. Sometimes we'll do pre-builts in gaming, and so many other things that we love to cover. So head on over there, make sure you like and subscribe there so you know when we actually go live and we do really rad builds, like the one that we did that was like the 30,000 build from a long time ago, or some of our actually more popular like training builds as well. Lastly, you can feel free to follow me on all the socials, Robeytech, Instagram. I'm Robeytech on Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, not quite Tinder yet, but we're working on it. You can also follow me over at Twitch as well. Anyway, guys, that's it for today's episode of Robeytech. Head on over to originpc.com, check out the EVO16-S. We'll have links down below to the configuration, the configurator, and the product page to pick up one of these. I hope you enjoyed this episode, and we look forward to seeing you on the next one. Thanks, guys.